and welcome to Agrbiotech. I am Lara Afolayan. Today on the program, we shall be looking at efforts by Nigeria's Agricultural Seeds Council to stop the use of fake and adulterated seeds in the country. Genetic modification for food as it applies to nutrition and human health shall also be in focus on this episode as Dr. Adekunle Rowaye of the National Biotechnology Development Agency's Medical Biotechnology Department speaks on these issues on the program today. Let's now see what is happening in the world of agricultural biotechnology. Kenyan scientists are advancing an innovative biocontrol remedy that is helping smallholder farmers fight the scourge of aflatoxin. The remedy comes in the form of a product known as AFLASAVE KAOITM, which scientists say can dramatically reduce crop contamination by aflatoxin, a naturally occurring toxin produced by fungi found on various crops. Scientists say almost 70% of Kenyans are at risk of chronic exposure to the toxins, which killed 150 people from lower eastern Kenya after consuming highly contaminated maize during the 2004 and 2005 cropping seasons. The country's government declared at least 2.3 million bags of maize unfit for human and livestock consumption and trade as a result of aflatoxin contamination in 2010. Another 155,000 bags were declared similarly unfit in 2014. Scientists are urging groups against the use of biotechnology for agriculture in Ghana to embrace the gene editing technology for a more effective and productive agricultural sector in the country. They say the cocoa industry, which is Ghana's leading cash crop and a major contributor to the economy, stands to gain greatly if the nation embraces gene editing, particularly the use of CRISPR. They say it wouldn't be a good idea to have a tomato variety with a longer shelf life to prevent tomato farmers in Ghana from losing a significant amount of their produce due to early spoilage for short shelf life varieties. They add that the prospects of using CRISPR to solve the country's food production problems, cure or eliminate debilitating diseases, and cleaning up the environment cannot be overemphasized. Ghana is on the verge of approving genetically modified crops now that scientists have completed field trials on the country's first genetically modified crop, which is the BT cowpea with inherent resistance to certain insect pests. The Interprofessional Cotton Association of BURKINA-FASO, an industry body comprising farmers and other sector players, say the cotton production in the country is continuing its downward slide 3 years after the nation phased out the use of pest-resistant genetically modified cotton. Last April, the Interprofessional Cotton Association of Burkina, an industry body comprising farmers and other sector players, set a production target of 800,000 tons for the 2018-2019 cotton season, but the country produced just 436,000 tons, despite farmers being offered a record $27.4 million in incentives in the form of subsidies on insecticides, fertilizers, and irrigation facilities. Burkina Faso, previously Africa's largest cotton producer, is now fourth, trailing Côte d'Ivoire, Mali, and Benin. Reports say Nigeria produces 70% of seeds in the West African sub-region, but the country is faced with challenges of fake and adulterated seeds in its markets. The Agricultural Seeds Council has now held a seeds fair to create awareness on good quality seeds and its relevance to agricultural productivity. While discouraging the use of bad quality seeds, promoters of agricultural biotechnology were also present at the seeds fair to showcase what the technology has to offer farming in Nigeria. Agrbiotech was there as well. This Seeds Fair is targeted at showcasing the strides of the National Agricultural Seeds Council has made in ensuring that research in seed production addresses farmers' needs amid adverse effects of climate change. It expects this to in turn boost productivity, address nutritional needs and explore the agricultural sector's business potentials while ensuring a well-regulated seeds market. It also provides a platform for seed companies to showcase their proven varieties, increase linkages between seed companies and farmers, while enhancing accessibility and marketing of improved seeds. The Agricultural Seeds Council is positive the use of regulated improved seeds will allow for higher productivity and enhance food security. It wants Nigerians to desist from the use of fake and adulterated seeds.
Industry will regulate about 315 seed enterprises of various categories. These are the ones that are producing and are marketing, and they have their outlets in all the nooks and crannies of this country. But we are encouraging them to ensure that they increase their outlets so that farmers at the local level in the villages will have access to good quality seeds.
Participants here say Nigeria cannot achieve its food sufficiency target without sustainable seed system. They add that seeds constitute the farmer's most precious resource, and so in making sustainable progress, a catalytic innovative approach must be adopted to ensure a sustainable seed system that will drive the growing needs and concerns of Nigeria's agricultural sector. Promoters of biotechnology for agriculture in Nigeria also showcased the benefits of the technology to agriculture at the event.
Seeds improvement, having quality seeds that will actually impact on the lives of the farmers, that will empower them, that will give them a bumper harvest. Of course, when you're talking about that, you're talking about the use of biotechnology or other technologies in agriculture.
Agricultural scientists say seeds play an important role in the rapid development and transformation of agriculture. They believe that without a viable and sustainable seed system, Nigeria will be far from achieving the benefits of an improved and transformed agricultural sector, which they feel is a catalyst to economic growth and development. The National Agricultural Seeds Council has a vision to build a market-driven seed industry responsible for the production, distribution and marketing of adequate quantities of quality seeds that are accessible and affordable to all farmers. It aims to transform the Nigerian seed industry into a foreign exchange earner, major employer of labor and wealth creator. And on BURKINA today, Dr. Adekunle Rowaye of the Medical Biotechnology Department at the National Biotechnology Development Agency will be sharing his thoughts with me on agricultural biotechnology, food safety and nutrition. And joining me on the program is Dr. Adekunle Rowaye. He is of the Medical Biotechnology Department of the National Biotechnology Development Agency. He is here to speak on genetically modified foods, nutrition, and human health. It's good to have you join me.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, how would you explain the science behind genetic modification for food?
Well, genetic modification is you have a trait in mind. Probably you want you're having issues with insects attacking your crops, and then you want to keep away the insects. You could bring a gene, maybe from soil or from another species, insert in a plant, and then it makes that particular plant resist those insects. So it's about a trait that you want to achieve, really. That's why we genetically modify. Sometimes you may want to add a particular nutrient into a food, and then you say like vitamin A, like you have vitamin A fortified rice or vitamin A fortified cassava. That's genetic modification. So it's about a particular trait that you want to add. It's like a value added food, so to speak.
I understand that the recombinant DNA technology, which is what genetic modification is all about, has been used successfully in medicine, talking about vaccines, for example. Could you expatiate more on the similarities between what happens in food production and what happens in medicine?
Yeah, in medicine, you have what we call microbial factories. Supposing I get a gene that could produce a particular protein and I put it in a bacteria. Now, bacteria naturally reproduces itself. So all I need to do is to ferment the bacteria in large scale. Because I put the gene in that bacteria, the bacteria will express that particular protein I want. So I'm going to be having insulin in mass because I put an insulin gene into my bacteria. So it helps. It's just like an easy way because you produce, you keep multiplying. Why don't you help me multiply this? So at the end of the day, I harvest my insulin and then purify. I have recombinant insulin. It's a cheaper method of production. It is faster and it's all over the world now. As at the year 2000, over 100 GM medicines have been approved, and coming forward to 2018, so much more has been done. So the problem really is that you wonder where people criticize GM foods, but they don't criticize GM medicines. And as a matter of fact, most of them must have received jabs, vaccines. Another way to do it, when I was in the university, there was a project we were working on, and that's it's called molecular farming. There's a human protein we're talking about, and the whole idea was to target that human protein into tobacco. At the end of the day, we'll harvest the tobacco, extract a human protein out of it, and then we'll have a human protein. That was the target of the project. That was the objective of that project. It's called molecular farming. So you see a marriage between agriculture and medicine at some point. And even the countries that don't approve planting GM crops have accepted GM medicines through plants. At least as of 2009, Europe has come up with a guideline for production of medicines through GM plants. So you see, I think it's dicey, and if you don't really understand the situation, you might just feel that there's something going wrong. But I think it goes beyond science, really, the agitations.
What goes on in medicine and what goes on in agriculture? What are the specific similarities?
Now, the truth about it is that when we talk of medicine, we're not talking about hospital here. When we talk of agriculture, we're not talking about the farm. All these things occur in the test tube. First in the test tube. Genetically engineering something, because gene sequences in one single cell, which your eyes cannot see, there are over 3.2 billion nucleotides. They're called codes. It provides sequences for the production of proteins. Out of those over 3 billion nucleotides, perhaps you just need 100 sequences for one gene. So what we're looking at, 100 to 200 sequences that codes for a particular expression. If you talk of maybe insulin, for example, and then you are bringing out that particular sequence, insert into another gene sequence, and then telling the organism to accept it. So let's look at it at a molecular level. At some point, there's a marriage. That marriage occurs in the laboratory, not in the hospitals, not in the farms. When you now get your plant, or you now get your medicine, it has to be tested because it's going to be consumed by humans. So you have to go through all your safety checks. So what you discover is that what the biologist or what the biochemist or what the molecular biologist will discover in the lab will probably not come out until about 10 years because there has to be safety checks, there has to be a lot of rigorous checks set up by the United Nations, set up by FAO, set up by World Health Organization and institutions to make sure that this technology is safe.
And how safe is this technology, I mean genetically modified foods, for human consumption?
Let me paint a picture. 1996, there was the first approval of the GM food, first GM food. America has been consuming, that's a population of 300 million, not all Americans anyway, because it's labeled. You choose whether you want to eat or not. But as a nation, it has accepted it. China, 1.2 billion people have accepted it as a nation. Brazil, you talk of other nations have accepted this. 1996 till date, how many years? 23 years. We've not reported any adverse case. I'm talking of reports by the Food and Agriculture Organization. I'm talking of reports from WHO Organization. I'm talking of the reports from EFSA, the European Food Safety Assessment Organizations. And so far, that is how good it is so far. But there have been complaints here and there, but not, they cannot substantiate it scientifically.
But the school of thought will argue that these particular varieties of crops are not natural.
Can I ask you what is natural? What is natural? 40 years ago, you were not talking about HIV. We're not talking about Lassa fever. We're not talking about Ebola. Genetic engineering is happening in nature. And that's the truth that people must understand. If you pick a bacteria, all over the newspaper you see resistant Streptococcus aureus. Why is Streptococcus aureus all of a sudden becoming resistant? Why? Because there's lateral integration. You have a bacteria, all of a sudden, over time, 20% of the DNA sequence of that bacteria changes because that bacteria is adapting to the environment. So things are happening without us even knowing it. Now we have malaria resistance, not because of GM, because of the drugs that we are taking. So in nature, there's genetic engineering happening. The truth is that we must now understand the mechanisms, the molecular mechanisms by which this genetic engineering is occurring, and being able to modify and being able to, look, let us use this thing to our advantage. So if people say you are playing God, then do we allow the devil to take over the whole show? That's the argument. Diseases are happening. How? By genetic engineering in nature.
Okay, we'll be talking more on the issues that we have raised, but we'll have to go on a quick break. Okay. And my guest has been Dr. Agrbiotech of the Department of Medical Biotechnology at the National Biotechnology Development Agency, speaking on genetic modification for food, nutrition, and human health. Agrbiotech continues shortly. Do stay. Welcome back. The program is still Agrbiotech, and Dr. Agrbiotech of the Department of Medical Biotechnology at the National Biotechnology Development Agency is still here with me. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And just before we went on that break, you said that this technology has no proven side effects so far. So in your opinion, why do you think there are so many concerns about this technology?
Oh, now there are sentiments. The sentiments are high. First of all, let me say this. What the mind cannot master, there's a tendency to resent. And that's what we see happening. Remember when polio vaccine first came? There was an issue that if you give your child a polio vaccine jab, he will lose his sterility as a man, and people kept avoiding polio vaccine. Today, well, as of last year we were out of polio. Now we're slightly back into it because of the crisis in the Northeast. Hopefully we'll get out of it again. Now it has been accepted. So it's something that is new. 10 years ago, I was in the middle of this in Europe. So Europe has faced its own, Nigeria is facing its own. But let me say this. There are concerns because people just believe this is not natural. And then it's getting to a stage that to stimulate that fear, you probably have people going into what you call falsehood, which is not proper. Setting up experiments that are a bit dodgy, you know. They set up an experiment, come out with a result, and then as a scientist, I am looking for evidence. You don't just tell me my wife is a witch. Tell me when she was flying, what color she changed to, how she landed, whether she has wings or not, how many people were there. I need evidences as a scientist, not just sentiments. And when you come with those evidences, please, I ask you, are those evidences reproducible? Because when you put up an experiment, you're probably coming up with your materials and methods. I should be able to say, look, you have done this experiment and you place on the internet all over the world. We should be able to reciprocate your results. It's very important. And so far, the experiments they have put out, the experimental designs have been dodgy. They have been faulty. I'll give you an example. 2012, a man came out. You find it on the internet, Seralini. And he said he had a GM experiment, and a particular GM food caused cancer, caused tumors in the rats. And by the time the experiment was reviewed, it was discovered that the species of rats he used are naturally prone to tumors. It's just like, as a veterinarian, I would tell you, you want to experiment with dogs. You are not only experimenting with dogs, you are experimenting with dogs that are between 8 years and above. I tell you, at that rate, you have 40 to 50% chances that those dogs will have cancers, naturally. So that's what he did. He used a species of rats that are prone to tumors. And those species of rats could have as much as 57% incidence of tumors without any experiment. So that's what people were. So some of those things are dodgy. As people are saying, look, your result is not statistically significant. The EU set up a probe, set up experiments. I'm talking of the European Commission. And they discovered that they were not able to get what the man got as his result. And they still discovered that it was safe. So even when these experiments come, please go and check. Are those experiments reproducible all over the world? If I tell you something is a carcinogen, there's a database for carcinogens all over the world. Your sunlight is a problem. Excessive exposure to your sunlight is a confirmed thing. Your dioxin, coming from pure water, heated pure water nylon, is a problem. So these things are confirmed all over the world. There are carcinogens, there are possible carcinogens, there are non-carcinogens, in categories. And scientists all over the world agree, whether Russia or Nigeria, and that's the way it is. So we must come out clean. Another one set up an experiment, and what he did was looking so shabby. The control, what we call control, the control experiments are the one that you didn't even give anything. They were dying. And the ones in the treated group were also dying. So we say, look, what's the significance when the ones that are not even treated with these ones are dying? Basically, you didn't even feed your rats well. So these are the things that we're looking at. And anytime they come up with those publications, international organizations, World Health Organization will sponsor research. And I'm saying to you, there was a report, 25 years of GM crop, GM food consumption by the EU. Go and pick that on the internet. And they said, look, 500 independent groups, research groups, for over 25 years, in over 2,000 projects have confirmed that the GM foods are just like the conventional foods in terms of safety. So, no difference.
Now, I saw what the World Health Organization, something it said about genetically modified food. It said that even though there have been no effects on human health by the general population in countries where these specific types of foods are consumed, but that there is a need to guard against the allergenicity of these foods and transfer of antimicrobial resistance from the food to humans. How does this apply to it?
Now, what happens is that, let me go through it. When you come out with a GM food, right, one of the first tests is what we call substantial equivalence. First of all, you look at the sequences molecularly. What remarkable difference is there between the GM and the conventional? And then second of all, you take a profile, it's what we call proximate analysis. The protein, is it the same? If you get 3.2 here, you get 3.2 there. The lipids, is it the same? The carbohydrates, is it the same? And all that. The mineral contents, the macronutrients, the micronutrients, and you do that. Then you now do the phytochemical analysis. Some of those crops could have 100 phytochemical constituents. You want to make sure all those metabolites are the same in this and in that. That's substantial equivalence. So when you now do that, and they are the same, basically the same, you now go for further safety tests. What is a further test? Allergenicity test. You want to make sure that no new allergen is produced. So allergenicity is one of the basic tests of GM. You must do it.
With what you've said so far, you've made a lot of reference to those who criticize this technology. How would you respond to the many arguments against this technology, particularly from those who are against it here in this part, in Nigeria?
The response is the same. People should look beyond the lines. I'll give you an example. When I was in school, they said if you take Gary and mango, you will die. And it was all over. And in these days where you have WhatsApp, I mean, if you just see that, somebody just drank Gario and mango yesterday and he died. But we are asking you, maybe the man had hypertension. Maybe his generator was on and the fumes of his generator killed him. You don't know. You just said the man died of mango and Gary. I want to know as a scientist, what in the mango combined with what in the Gary killed the man. But what I'm seeing now, what it looks like, is like the orange seller is bringing up that WhatsApp message so that it can affect the sales of the mango seller. It's more of a marketing warfare, believe you me.
And just before you go, what will be your final message to Nigeria on the use of this technology for agriculture?
I think we should open up, go beyond sentiments, and take our destiny in our hands. The people that are refusing this technology, compare their population to the people that are embracing it. China understands where it will be by 2050, and they cannot mess up with it. The same thing with the US, over 300 million people, how do you feed them? I read in a report we're now 201 million. How do we cope by 2050? You can say we have over 9-point-something million square hectares of land, but land tenure system, land use act, how much of that land is available for farming? So these are the issues. I think we should open up to these technologies. And there are so many things, genetic engineering, ploidy manipulations, there's so many things about biotechnology that we can benefit on. So let us open up. Remember polio, and I'm saying it's a technology that's come to stay. Let us open up.
Very well said there, and thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you.
And my guest has been Dr. Adekniruwaye of the Medical Biotechnology Department of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, speaking on genetically modified foods, nutrition, and human health. And you heard him right. Nigeria should open up and embrace genetic modification for food. Agrbiotech will continue shortly. Do stay with us. And it's a wrap on today's program. Send your emails to agribiotech1@yahoo.com. Send us tweets at agribiotech13 or post your comments on the Facebook page Agrbiotech on TVC. I am Lara Folanyo. See you next time.